If you've been to the movies in the last 5 years, you may have noticed that cinemas are full of people on their phones.
Hello?
Last April, I saw Sinners in a sold-out screening. I found it really fun to hear everyone's reactions in the crowded theater, and it was one of those epic blockbuster movies that really felt suited for cinemas, since watching it becomes such an event. But even though I was enjoying the movie, I noticed at least 3 people in my immediate vicinity on their phones. This wasn't even just a quick check of the time or a text message, but continuous scrolling through Reddit or Instagram stories. My other friends who saw Sinners in separate screenings complained about the same thing. Someone even said the woman in front of them spent the whole time scrolling on Uber Eats. I find this very annoying, obviously, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've become resistant towards just blaming it on the people themselves. I think it's a very online thought process to direct our anger at people for doing this or that, and feeling like a group of imaginary strangers are coming to ruin the things we hold dear. It creates an us versus them mentality that I think is too simplistic, and feeds into a very oppositional mindset. Phone addiction becoming more widespread has brought phone use into cinemas, but new movies also make it easier for viewers to follow along without needing to actively pay attention. Movies are being made for people on their phones. Today, the boundaries between TV and film are becoming increasingly blurred, but 20 years ago this was not the case. Movies represented distinct special events that you went out to see in theaters or that you carefully selected at a video store for your night in, while watching TV was generally seen as less sacred, as it was often treated as a kind of ambient entertainment that could be passively watched in stores, waiting rooms, or bars.
I'm sorry, Kayla. I'm sorry that I made a mistake. Oh, God. I fucking love you. There you go. I said it. And I've literally loved you for like the last week. Right.
Because the rules for where and how we watched broadcast TV were already looser, the introduction of new technology caused it to transform. TV shows embraced phone use and integrated it into their structures. Big Brother, American Idol, and Survivor's regular or special public votes incorporated phone and internet use into their programs, making it a necessary part of a season's arc. Rather than distracting from broadcast shows, simultaneous fan participation, discussion, and research enhanced viewers' connection to the show and helped create buzz. A study in 2017 found that this kind of internet use enabled a sense of increased knowledge gain, where individuals learned and connected more with the show by simultaneously using a second screen. Broadcast TV naturally enabled this kind of engagement through its format. Because seasons were released gradually, viewers were inclined to participate in discussions surrounding the show, developing fan theories and building community as they anticipated the next episode. But while broadcast TV led to active, participatory online activity, the streaming era of the early 2010s ushered in a form of more passive, casual second screen use. In 2013, Netflix's release of all 13 episodes of its new original series, House of Cards, caused the term binge watching to explode in popularity. The word had already been in use since the 90s, when people rewatched VCR tapes of soap operas or shows like The X-Files. But now, people were collectively binge watching a show that they were seeing for the first time.
One episode, and then we go to dessert. I don't remember the last time I've gone in the bathroom. Like, I have a bladder infection, but I'm just gonna get antibiotics after the next episode.
As sociologist David Arditi writes, we now have to binge watch to avoid spoilers. When everyone watches one episode of a show a week, the water cooler talk at the office will revolve around that week's episode. Being part of a workplace or a circle of friends can induce us to watch a specific show, so we can be part of the conversation about that show. We can then keep up with the show so our colleagues and friends don't spoil the show for us. With binge watching, this accelerates the whole cycle. Now, instead of discussing the latest episode, colleagues and friends will discuss the last season. Binge watching television becomes a necessary part of the cultural consumption of television. So while fans of broadcast TV could participate in simultaneous online discussion, fans of on-demand television have to avoid online conversation to enjoy their shows spoiler-free. For many, however, phone use had already been normalized in the home viewing space, so rather than simultaneously participating in active fan discussions, viewers resort to passive scrolling. I liken this to my experience playing Animal Crossing City Folk when I was around 7. I was only allowed to play for 1 hour a day on weekends, but I was obsessed with the game. I treasured that 1 hour so intensely that once I had to stop playing, I kept a journal where I described everything that I'd done in the game that day and everything I planned to do next time. Although I made very little progress in that game, I still acutely remember tiny details about the things I did, whereas the 100-something hours I accumulated in Animal Crossing New Horizons during the pandemic are a complete blur. The abundance and easy accessibility of content on streaming services makes it feel less valuable, so phone use doesn't seem as destructive. In fact, streaming services like Netflix actually benefit from these passive viewing habits. If audiences are closely watching the narrative on screen and having a powerful reaction to it, their viewing experience becomes more emotionally and intellectually demanding, which causes them to turn off the TV more quickly. Streaming services don't want you to have a powerful encounter with art. They want you to use their platform for as long as possible. During an interview with various film industry creatives in Europe who had worked on Netflix originals, scholar Daphne Rina Idiz describes how Netflix internally labels certain series as second screen shows. According to one interviewee, Netflix basically said, "What you need to know about your audience here is that they will watch the show, perhaps on their mobile phone, or on a second or third screen while doing something else and talking to their friends. You need your audience to understand what's going on, even if they're not looking at the screen." Idiz points out the qualities of second screen entertainment that these company executives push for, such as increasing narration, overly explaining the plot, and emphasizing or reiterating everything through acting, music, and voiceovers. Here, show don't tell. The screenwriting principle of storytelling through action and visuals rather than exposition is replaced by show and tell. As Will Tavlin notes in his essay Casual Viewing, screenwriters who have worked with Netflix often report being told to have characters announce what they're doing verbally, like in Lindsay Lohan's Irish Wish.
We spent a day together. I admit, it was a beautiful day, filled with dramatic vistas and romantic rain, but tomorrow I'm marrying Paul Kennedy.
Here, a viewer doesn't have to have looked up to know what has just occurred, and they can still feel that they're getting the full experience of watching the film. In fact, a film like this might actually be less enjoyable to watch while paying close attention. It wasn't made for that. Netflix's enormous power over the industry has caused this second screen-friendly impulse to trickle into the production of other films. While many still have theatrical releases, a successful film will inevitably end up on a major streaming service, viewed in living rooms filled with other devices. If a writer, director, or especially a producer has previously worked on a show or a movie that was made to be second screen friendly, they're far more likely to push for changes that show and tell, because their trust in their audiences is weaker. Take the executive producer for The Substance, whose previous credit was Genie, a Peacock original release, or Lucky Chat Productions, Margot Robbie's production company behind Barbie, who produced 2 straight-to-streaming series, Maid and Mike, before working on the film. These previous releases each reflect certain expectations for their audience's attention spans, and what they'll have the capacity to understand. Both of these films have moments that deliver their feminist themes in ways that are moving and original, but both are also marred by their impulse to directly communicate their messages. The Substance constantly zooms into sexist headlines about women's aging, while America Ferrera's feminist monologue concisely summarizes the thesis of Barbie. These moments serve as insurance to prevent inattentive audiences from missing the point, telling them exactly what they need to know rather than showing them. But when a film does the intellectual work for its audience, connecting the dots for us, it gives us permission to continue to pay less attention. This creates a kind of feedback loop. Viewers are using their phones while they watch movies, so filmmakers adjust their content for a distracted audience, requiring less active attention. Now the films give viewers permission to continue using their phones without their experience being impacted. So although I personally found Sinners engaging, it also had moments where it gave its audience permission to passively watch. In an early scene, 2 characters are revealed to have a dead child and are shown placing a bottle of milk on its grave. This is a key introduction to the mother's character, telling us about what drives and motivates her. In a later scene, when this same character is facing potential death, she nobly asserts that she's ready to go, saying, "I've got somebody on the other side waiting for me." Knowing what drives her character at her core, this line is enough. But Sinners immediately undermines its own storytelling by assuming the audience won't have paid enough attention to this character's backstory to understand what she could be referring to. Instead, it has to include a flashback to the same shot shown less than an hour ago in the movie. Once you start looking for them, it's clear that these casual viewing qualities are popping up everywhere, marking a new approach to film and TV in reaction to the digital era. It makes sense. Without responding to the new viewing habits of the public, long-form entertainment would risk making itself obsolete. But the shift back toward weekly releases of TV episodes feels like a positive turn. The proliferation of online theories around shows like Severance have created enormous buzz that would not have been possible if the season had been released all at once. Gradual episode releases encourage fans to pick apart tiny details, looking for clues as to what might happen next, and developing theories among themselves. When an entire season is available to stream, viewers are less interested in those individual beats of the entire show and primarily appreciate major plot points. Severance's release schedule incentivizes its writers to include more absurd and ambiguous details and convey its narrative in a thoughtful, indirect way. Like with TV, people like to feel a sense of connection when they watch movies. When screenings feel like special events, people are less likely to be drawn toward connection on their phones. Films like Barbie and Sinners had enormously attended releases that are great examples of these theatrical special events. They just also, unfortunately, catered to second-screen viewing habits. Dressing up for screenings of Barbie and the Minion movie, or even the over-the-top reactions during the Minecraft movie, give people a reason to go back to theaters, even if the movie isn't particularly inventive, because the screening delivers an experience that at-home streaming can't provide. As David Arditi says, watching a film at a theater provides a collective experience that makes people feel part of a community. When we hear people react, clap, exclaim, we experience collective effervescence, an electric feeling experienced by groups of people. Collective effervescence is what makes us feel like part of something. Feeling like part of something leads to active viewership, which can allow more complex, ambitious narratives to thrive and keep being produced. So with that being said, I better see people dressing up for Hamnet later this year.